Hello, happy people, and welcome to your Moment of Zed, the YouTube channel dedicated to the most beautiful car in the world, the BMW Z3, or as the folks in Aberystwyth, Wales call it, the Z3. I'm Mark, and today we're going to do a video that I wish was unnecessary, actually. We're going to change the air filter on the 1.9 liter four-cylinder engine on the Z3, the one I have, the one many of you have. Now, I kind of wish somewhat the cars were like the old days. If you remember, all you had to do was unscrew a wing nut, lift off a lid, change your ring air filter, and put the lid back on with the wing nut. Super simple. If you have a 2.8 liter, 2.5 liter, any of the sixes as far as I know in our car, changing the air filter is nothing more than pulling or pushing two tabs, pulling out the tray, and replacing the filter. On the 1.9s, it's more difficult. Thought I'd do it as a short video, but it's just a little too involved. So I'm going to do it as a short-ish regular video today. But before we get to all that, we have three Zeds of the week. And first up, we have Stefan from Denver, Colorado with his 1997 2.8 liter 5-speed Roadster with 100,000 miles. Now, he says it's all original. He bought it just last month and has already done the seat bushings, fixed the glove box sag. He will be replacing the rear window, and he'll be doing a suspension refresh with new bushings and coilovers. Very nice. Congratulations on your purchase, Stefan. Next up, Bruce from Pennsylvania with, as he described it, a Z3 with a back seat. This 1998 318 Ti Sport with the same 1.9 liter and 5-speed that my car has. He says it's a one-owner car with 60,000 miles. It has never seen snow or salt. It has a full Dynon performance package, a Stage 2 cold air intake, Dynon suspension, and a UUC Motorworks shift kit. Very nice. Last but not least, Scott from Northern California with his 2001 2.5 liter automatic Roadster with 105,000 miles. Now, he bought it way back in 2007. Scott says he has a great daily commute through sweeping mountain turns, but he felt the Z3 had too much body flex and understeer, so he stiffened the body with strong strut parts, a strut tower brace in the front, and a brace in the back connected to two longitudinal rails. Very interesting. He corrected the understeer by using M front shock mounts installed upside down, stiffer sway bars, and slightly stiffer and lower springs. Very, very interesting. Thank you, Scott. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing your beautiful cars. If you'd like to see your car on Zed of the Week, please follow the easy instructions in the description below. Also, if you'd like to help support the channel, please think about buying me a coffee using the QR code here or the link in the description, much like Gavin, Mike, and Michael recently have. Thank you, gentlemen, for your generous contributions. And thank you for the messages you have sent. I certainly appreciate that as well. Now let's get to that air filter. Okay, no more complaining. Let's get to it. Your air filter on the M44 lives there in the airbox. First step, go ahead and loosen up the hose clamp that connects the secondary air pump hose to the airbox. And you'd think once you loosen that up, you could just pull it backwards, but it's kind of stuck there and it's underneath the connection to the mass airflow sensor. So after complaining for a while again about BMW designs, I went ahead and did it the easy way, pulled the connection on the secondary air pump side off by moving it toward that shock tower, and then just pulled the whole thing out and got it the heck out of the way. Made my life easier. Again, some folks on the internet show it a different way, but to get the lid off the box, there's 4 clips. There's the first one around the corner of the second one. Now, the third and fourth are difficult to see and get at, but the third one lives under that inlet that we just took the hose off of, the inlet from the secondary air pump. So you can kind of touch it. I can't show it on camera. You might be able to get it with your hand, or maybe have your little kid do it for you, or you could use a pick tool to pull up on that clamp. That's actually not the hardest one. The hardest one lives under the silencer part of the airbox lid, and the only way I could show it to you was to take the lid off and then point to it here. There it is, and where it exists And for some folks on the internet, it doesn't exist at all, but trust me, it does. It exists under this silencer part here that I'm showing, and that is connected to the lid and remains with the lid when you take it off. There's my old air filter and my new air filter. Link in the description to that new air filter, and that was about $22, I think, on Amazon. Inside the lid, at the bottom and top, you'll see a plastic cage on the inside of the box and the inside of the lid. Now that cage, in between it and the box, it had gray foam at one time. I already took the gray foam out of the bottom of the box years ago, but you can see it on the top of the box, and that's just insulation. It doesn't have to be there. What it's done over the years, and you'll find this on your car as well if you've never done it before, or if a previous owner didn't do it, is it's turned to dust, or it's in the process of turning to dust, and you don't want that in there to get sucked into your intake. So the best thing you can do is remove the cage and then vacuum it out, and that's probably the easiest way. I chose to leave my cages in for no apparent reason whatsoever, but you can, and you can just vacuum it out, and you could break it up with your finger. And then, again, I've heard of people blowing it out with a blower. I don't know why you do that. I'm going to use a shop vac to take care of that stuff. But to get to the lid, I've still got a problem. To make it easier to remove, I need to pull it off the mass airflow sensor. And luckily, that's just 2 clips that are easily done by hand. You can see it on the lid to the box, goes right there on the mass airflow sensor. Pull those off and just make your life easier and clean up the connection there too. Then you can flip the box over. Now please note that I haven't removed from the lid the air temperature, the intake air temperature sensor, and you'll see that in a minute, but I didn't remove that. You could if you wanted. And again, vacuum all the debris out of the bottom. Vacuum any of that foam if you still have some, and that's going to make your life easier. Again, for this foam, what I've done, sucked up the stuff that was most deteriorated just with the shop vac, and then I broke up the rest with my finger, and whatever I couldn't get with my finger, I broke up using this pick tool. And again, just kind of worked my way in the nooks and crannies. You could probably remove the cage. You'd be fine. The cage isn't going to do anything for us anymore. But I decided to break it up with the pick tool, leave the cage, and then I just cleaned it up. Final cleanup with the shop vac. And as you can see, pretty much nice and shiny inside. No more dust, no more problems. At the foreground, you can see that temperature sensor, which I didn't remove. You don't have to. Then I put the new air filter in the box, and just make sure it's seated well, otherwise you're never going to get the lid on again. It's hard enough even when it's seated well. First step to putting the lid back on, well, preliminary step, I greased the O-ring to the mass airflow sensor with some silicone grease after I cleaned it out, and I also cleaned the mating surface of that O-ring on the mass airflow sensor. And then I know people hate to hear this, but putting it back together is the reverse of taking it apart. Okay, the guilt finally got to me. I couldn't leave you hanging. So the steps I did for reinstall were this. First things first, I put the lid back on the mass airflow sensor and just use these 2 clips to secure it. Then I seated the box, and you've got to seat it perfectly or it's not gonna work. And then I did 2 clips to get to the clip underneath the inlet from the secondary air pump. I used a pick tool and just kind of between my hand and the pick tool maneuvered it on top of the box and then pushed down using the pick tool. And that it's kind of hard to show and hard to explain, but that's how it worked. And I did the same thing with clip number 4, which lives underneath the silencer here. I just went ahead and used the pick tool and my hand both and kind of maneuvered it on. Again, really kind of impossible to show on camera, but the pick tool helped me a lot. Once those 4 clips were on, then it was just a matter of putting the hose from the secondary air pump onto the lid and then putting it on the secondary air pump itself and retightening the hose clamp. And again, much more complex than this all should be to change an air filter, but there it is. So folks, there you have it. More involved than it should be, not impossible, half-hour job, give or take. I hope that helps you out. If it did, and if you find this content valuable, please crush that like button as always. And until next time, remember, friends don't let friends drive boring.